Why is the Vatican, the nation that the Pope rules, so small? Especially when in the Middle Ages the popes ruled the Papal States, pretty much most of central Italy. So how does the Papal States go from this to this? Well, let's take a look at the history. You see, Italy going into the 19th century wasn't a single country. It was actually split up into numerous different nations, in which the Papal States was just one of many. But from 1848 to 1871, something remarkable happened: Italian unification. There was a lengthy and oftentimes violent process, and those in favour of unification rallied behind the Kingdom of Sardinia and its king, with those in favour of unification rallying behind the banner of the Kingdom of Sardinia. However, the Pope at the time, Pope Pius, opposed this vigorously. But by 1870, all of Italy, barring the Papal States, had now been unified. And it's during this era that the last great armies serving the Pope, the Papal armies, rally. However, they're no match to stop unification. The walls are breached, and on the 20th of September 1870, Rome, the home of the Pope, the leader of the Catholic Church, is conquered. But what happens next isn't simple, and thus begins the Roman question, which is a dispute that lasts decades between the government of Italy and the Pope over who rules Rome. Should Rome be the capital of a secular state like Italy, or the capital of a theocratic one like the Papal States? Who really rules in Rome and exercises authority? And 5 popes up until the 1920s completely refused to recognise the legitimacy of the Italian government in Rome, and across the former Papal States. And when the King of Italy took up residence in the palace formerly lived in by the popes, the Pope at the time screamed, "Who are these thieves?" and threw away the keys, with the king having to get a locksmith to actually get into the palace. The Italian government eventually granted the popes diplomatic immunity and allowed him to receive ambassadors, and eventually the popes get honours and privileges pretty much equal to that of the King of Italy, just without the power to actually rule any of Italy. But the popes by now refused to even set a foot outside of the Vatican, refusing to place themselves in a position where they'd be under the protection of the kings of Italy. Thus the popes of this era become to be known as the prisoners of the Vatican. However, this increasingly problematic dilemma has to come to an end, and indeed it does. For in 1929, finally a treaty is signed, with the Italian government and the Pope seeking a compromise which would see the Vatican become an independent state and the Pope as its ruler. Financial compensation was also given for the loss of the Papal States during unification. Thus the Vatican that we see today, its own independent state in the middle of Rome, well, it has quite an interesting history. And that is how the Papal States went from being this mighty state to being this small, but indeed very important state today. I hope you enjoyed.